You were so happy when you first arrived. Everything felt exciting, charming. Even the confusing parts felt like an adventure. And then one day, something small happened. Maybe the grocery store closed at 6. Maybe someone gave you a vague answer when you needed a direct one. Maybe the bus didn't come when it was supposed to and nobody seemed to care. And suddenly, without any warning, you felt something shift inside you. Not homesickness exactly. Something harder to name. Something that made you wonder if you made a terrible mistake. If you are watching this right now and you felt that shift, I want you to know something important before we go any further. You are not broken. You are not weak. And you are not the first person to sit exactly where you are sitting right now, feeling exactly what you are feeling. What you are experiencing has a name, and understanding it might be the most useful thing you do today. Culture shock is one of those phrases that gets thrown around so casually that most people think they already understand it before they ever experience it. They imagine dramatic breakdowns or obvious moments of crisis. What they don't prepare for is the quiet, creeping frustration that shows up after the excitement fades. Researchers and psychologists who study cross-cultural transitions have mapped this experience into recognizable stages, and the first stage is the one that tricks almost everyone. It's called the honeymoon phase, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Everything is new. Everything is interesting. The different food, the different pace of life, the different sounds in the street. Your brain is flooded with novelty, and novelty feels like joy. But honeymoon phases end. That is literally what makes them honeymoon phases. The stage that follows is where things get genuinely hard, and it catches people completely off guard precisely because they were so happy just days or weeks before. Psychologists call this the frustration stage, sometimes the disillusionment stage. This is when the differences that once seemed charming start to feel like obstacles. The indirect communication style that seemed so polite at first now feels evasive and exhausting. The relaxed attitude toward time that seemed refreshingly laid back now makes you want to pull your hair out. The shops closing early, the bureaucracy moving slowly, the unspoken social rules you keep accidentally breaking without anyone telling you what you did wrong. None of these things changed. But you changed. Your brain has used up its initial reserves of excitement and curiosity, and now it's tired. And tired brains look for problems. Here is something your brain is doing right now that you probably don't realize. It is running constant comparisons. Every single experience you have in your new environment is being measured against a template your brain built over years of living somewhere else. When things don't match the template, your brain doesn't just notice the difference. It registers the difference as wrong. Not just unfamiliar, actually wrong. This is called cultural dissonance, and it is an automatic cognitive process. You are not choosing to feel frustrated. Your nervous system is genuinely working overtime, trying to function in a context it hasn't fully learned yet. That is exhausting in a way that is hard to explain to people who haven't gone through it. The specific things that trigger this stage are worth talking about honestly, because nobody usually does. The closed grocery store is a perfect example. In many countries, particularly in Europe and parts of Latin America and Asia, businesses operate on schedules that prioritize the lives of the people who run them over maximizing commercial convenience. Stores close in the afternoon. They close on Sundays. They close for national holidays you didn't know existed. To someone from a culture where 24-hour convenience is treated as a basic right, this feels like the world is conspiring against you. It isn't conspiring against you, it is simply organized around different values. But knowing that intellectually and feeling it emotionally are two completely different things. The communication style issue runs even deeper. In many cultures, directness is considered rude. Giving someone a blunt answer feels aggressive to the person saying it, not helpful. So instead, you get responses that circle around the point, answers that depend on reading context you haven't learned yet, and social signals that assume a shared cultural vocabulary you simply don't have. You leave conversations unsure of what just happened. You can't tell if someone agreed with you or was just being polite. You can't tell if you offended someone or if they are always that quiet. This ambiguity is genuinely cognitively stressful, and it compounds over time. So, what do you actually do with all of this? Because I am not here to just name your problem and leave you with it. The first thing, and this is more important than it sounds, is to stop treating your frustration as evidence that something went wrong. The frustration is evidence that your brain is working hard to adapt. Adaptation is not comfortable. Learning is not comfortable. The discomfort you are feeling is the sensation of growth, and that reframe is not just a motivational poster. It is neurologically accurate. Your brain is literally building new pathways right now. The second thing is to identify your specific triggers and separate them into two categories: things you can practically adjust for, and things you genuinely need to accept. If the stores close at 6, you can learn to shop at 5. You cannot change the closing time, but you can change your behavior to accommodate it. That practical adjustment removes the daily friction point. Do this with as many specific frustrations as you can. Turn them into logistics problems rather than cultural grievances. It shifts your relationship to the situation. The third thing is to find at least one person who has been through this. Not someone to complain to endlessly, but someone who can say, "Yes, I felt that. And here is what came next." Because here is what you genuinely need to hear right now. This stage passes. It does not pass because the local systems suddenly become more convenient for you. It passes because your brain finishes building its new template. The things that currently feel wrong start to feel normal. Not better necessarily, but normal. And once something feels normal, your nervous system stops burning energy fighting it. That freed up energy goes back into your capacity for curiosity and connection, and eventually, if you let it, genuine affection for the place you are in. The people who report the richest experiences living abroad are almost never the ones who avoided culture shock. They are the ones who went through it and came out the other side with a much larger and more flexible understanding of how human beings organize their lives. The grocery store closing at 6 stops being an inconvenience and starts being something you understand, even something you appreciate, because you took the time to learn what it reflects about the culture you are living in. The indirect communication style stops being evasive and starts being a skill you actually develop, because you put in the work to understand what people are really saying underneath the politeness. That is the payoff waiting on the other side of this stage. Not just survival, but a genuinely expanded version of yourself. Someone who can navigate more than one way of being in the world. Someone who has proven to themselves that they can be uncomfortable and uncertain and frustrated and keep going anyway. That is not a small thing. That is actually one of the most significant things a person can do for themselves. If this video helped you feel a little less alone in what you are going through, share it with someone else who is in the middle of their own adjustment. And if you want to keep going deeper into how to actually thrive in a new culture, rather than just survive it, I have a lot more for you here. Stick around.